Oh. Welcome to Let's Go Feral. I'm your host, Andie Main. With me is an old friend who I have much respect for, author. We're going to go through your credits. I don't remember. I didn't prep well. You're an author. You've written two books that I love. Your name is Matthew Hongoltz-Hetling. Say hello, Matthew.
Hello, thank you very much. That is a wonderful, unpolished, but authentic and from the heart introduction. So delighted to be talking to you
I almost
and the
said that
Let's
you
Go
won a
Feral
Pulitzer
folks.
Prize, but I can't remember if you won a Pulitzer Prize or not.
I was a Pulitzer finalist, and
Okay.
that is enough shine that I'm going to put that on the top of my resume for the rest of my days.
Yeah. And I was also going to say that you won the Nobel Peace Prize, but I just don't know if that's true or not.
Well, someone has offered to share it with me, so I'm looking into the legalities of that. We'll see.
That's awesome. Matt, I'm so excited to have you. Last time I had you on a podcast, it was my vegetarian podcast called PETA. And that was a podcast where I, as a vegetarian, made fun of people who have been murdered by animals. And you wrote a book called A Libertarian Walks Into a Bear, which is about a city in New Hampshire that got taken over by libertarians. And subsequently, because they deregulated everything, that city was taken over by bears. So that was the beginning of our love story. And at that moment in my life, I was deep in the throes of a massive alcohol problem and very manic. And I thought it would be really funny if I invited my friend Michael Isaacs to play Alex Jones to interview you while I played the straight man. And I just have to say, like, I can't believe you let us do that to you, and you handled it beautifully. And when I look back on that era in my life, I don't know if that was good art or not, but I know that I was definitely drunk.
It was a fantastic sketch. I was so happy to be a part of it. And I don't know if I would call you the straight man in that scenario. You were as colorful as faux Alex Jones.
That's true, because I was drunk. But I'm 4 years sober now, so hooray for me.
Hey, congratulations. Seriously, 4
hmm
years.
four
Holy shit.
years. I think it's gonna stick. Yeah. Um, like you get to your 40s and hangovers are just too much. So that was a major problem, or a major problem that I solved, I should say. And now I
That's
live in
amazing.
Portland, Oregon. And where do you live?
I live in Vershire, Vermont. It's a small rural town in Vermont, not that far from the New Hampshire border, sort of close to the Dartmouth campus
Okay. Do you
in New
get a vote?
Hampshire.
Do you get a vote for Bernie Sanders?
I do get to vote for Bernie
Oh,
Sanders,
that
and I
must
do it
feel
as
amazing.
frequently as it does. It does. It's the best. And he doesn't need it because he's the most popular governor in the whole country. Or not governor, senator.
I just
Um,
imagine like writing on a piece of paper, I'm voting for Bernie and putting it in the mail. That would feel good. Even just that would feel good for me.
yeah, yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah.
I've gotten yeah, and he's sort of here a lot. So as like when I was working as a local journalist, I got some chances to interact with him, and that was also he's just the same on camera and off.
He's a crotchety man, isn't he? He's kind of
He's
grumpy.
a crotchety man. He's kind of grumpy. The first time I heard him, I was like covering him, and I'd not previously heard of him. I was not like really plugged into politics, and so
How
like
long ago was
I
that?
went.
You're like 2 years ago.
Um, It was probably like no, like like maybe 13, 14, like 2013-ish,
Okay.
2012-ish, something like that.
Yeah.
And so I went to listen to him talk to some Dartmouth College students, and I came back and I told my editor, he had the best sounding and worst smelling words that I've ever heard come out of a politician's mouth. And I am now in his pocket. So don't expect me to write anything else unbiased about Bernie Sanders. And my editor was like, I know, the things he says are outrageous, but we fact check them and they're all true. And so I was a very happy late to life Bernie convert.
I'd say that was about the time when most of us found out about him. I remember finding out about him right before Trump got elected. So,
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
all in the same boat there. No worries.
yeah.
So you lived in New Hampshire because your books are oftentimes about New Hampshire.
No, no, it's just that the local newspaper that I worked for, the regional paper was it covers the Connecticut Upper Valley, which
Hmm.
it encompasses both Vermont and New Hampshire, and so I was working from a New Hampshire office covering a lot of New Hampshire things, and that was what led to that bear book and some of my other New Hampshire coverage as well.
Yeah, I'd say that New Hampshire is to you what Maine is to Stephen King.
Well, that is a high compliment indeed.
I
Yes,
don't
I
know. I don't know if that's a
New
compliment.
Hampshire, it is a horror show, is it not?
It's an absolute shit show. You are the only reason that I know what New Hampshire is by reading your work.
That will make the people of New Hampshire very sad.
Um, they'd say it in their New Hampshire accent though, where they drop the R's. I can't do it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's very like Peter Griffin from Family Guy has a New Hampshire accent,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. Very, well, very close. Yeah, they're almost indistinguishable. I think he's technically Rhode Island, the
Oh, okay.
neighboring postage stamp of a state, Rhode Island, but it sounds just the same.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I love okay, let's talk about your newest book, Ghost Lab. Something I'm so excited about with your books is that they always dovetail into the topics that I want to discuss on my podcast effortlessly. So thank you so much for writing an entire book just to match up what my interests are on a random podcast. But like my last one was about animals, and this podcast, Let's Go Feral, it's kind of like I tag it as saying, or I pitch it as saying it's weirdos talking about weird stuff. And so it's kind of like unsolved mysteries in the way where like maybe this episode will be about ghosts, maybe the next episode will be about aliens, maybe the next episode will be about divining rods. I don't know. I'm getting but that your book follows a team of paranormal researchers, and your perspective is like, at first, when I listened to the book, by the way. I listened
Mhm.
to it while I was driving
Thank
to,
you very much.
yeah, you got one download from me.
I love it. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, I listened to it while I was driving to the mountains. So that was like a 3 hour drive for me to Bend, Oregon, if you've heard of it. And so it was like over the New Year's weekend, and I took like a long weekend just to go hiking. And so I had this narrator's voice in my head for it's like a 16-hour long book or something, and I listened to it within a weekend. So you were like your words were there for
Wow.
my entire New Year's because I was just like, this is so good, I have to finish it. Um
Oh, thank you.
yeah, and I think the narrator also has done some narration for Ken Burns documentaries. So that was really comforting too. And then
Yeah, he's got an amazing voice.
yeah, and I had him in my head narrating my own adventures, like when I wasn't listening to the book. 'Cause
He became the voice in your head.
yeah, while I was hiking, it was like, oh,
That's cool.
and Andy walked over a bridge. It was kind of like that.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome.
yeah. So the main character in your book is also named Andy, and he was kind of a jerk. He was like one of those. I mean, the way you described him is like kind of a short man with a lot of opinions about people's height, as if that defined their character, which I think says a lot about his perspective in general. It's like,
Yeah, yeah, he's a real interesting contradiction. He's like yeah, he's very jerky in so many ways. His politics are the opposite of my progressive politics. He's um you know, very rude and dismissive to a lot of people, but he also sort of like has this like capacity for kindness sometimes and for like sort of when he recognizes something as an ethical imperative, he will, hurt himself to achieve the ethical imperative sometimes. And so, yeah, I don't know. Like
he does have a
I think I
redeeming
wrote in the book.
character arc at the end. Like at the end, it's like, oh, he kind of found himself, he found his way. to me at least.
Yeah, yeah, and and I think I wrote early in the book that he was easy to love with the certain like suite of characteristics that I ascribed to him, and he was easy to hate because of those same characteristics, right? Yeah, like the his ability to just talk endlessly about little minutia and sort of like share his knowledge in this very pompous, overbearing way. If you're interested in the topic, that's just what you want. And if you're not, you were looking for the escape hatch.
Yeah, he seemed like the epitome of mansplaining to me.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And
Mansplaining from a teeny little body.
yeah, from a tiny little man. I just loved like every time you wrote about how tall someone was from his perspective. Like he would note it and then you would note that he noted it and it cracked me up quite a bit. Um and you did have one line in this book. Well, okay. The what how I interpreted this book and the thing that I took away from it is that in uncertain times, we start to come up with more paranoid thinking and more conspiratorial thinking because since nothing's making sense in the timeline, we're coming up and like grasping wildly at anything that can help us make sense. That's kind of what I took away from it. What are your
Yeah,
thoughts on
this is
that?
like absolutely no. You've nailed it. Like when we can control a situation, we don't need superstitions,
Hmm.
right? If you are um, going to a bank and conducting a transaction, you just do the transaction. But if you are, throwing your dating profile out there on Tinder, you are looking at your astrology charts and sort of like seeing how that works because you don't have any control over that, right? And this has shown up in, this is not like my thoughts. This is like, well established by sociologists that in times of uncertainty and lack of control, um, supernatural thinking increases, right?
Hmm.
And people can sort of like compartmentalize it where, like the example I just said, Tinder versus the bank, or some people can just go sort of like whole hog on spiritual, fuzzy spiritual thinking and
Hmm.
beliefs.
Yeah. And then in one towards the end of the book, you said something that stuck out to me because you described me to a T, and I was like, "Fuck you, Matt." I think I said that out loud. I'm looking up my note from it. I even took notes. I'm such a great interviewer. Um, so you talked about how middle-aged Democratic women tend to go find themselves in the forest. And I was literally walking to the forest to go find myself right when I heard that. And it infuriated me.
Well, yeah, no, that's really funny. Yeah, like so that passage, it's really I was trying to sort of like define what the demographic is of these paranormal believers. No one's ever looked at these supernatural sort of like non-religious but spiritual folks as like a voting block, right? And a
Yeah.
lot of the people that I talked to and were men, and there's sort of like an aspect to the culture that can be very male dominated. If you think of Bigfoot hunters and you think of
Oh, yeah.
ufologists, the alien enthusiasts and those folks, they tend to be a sort of like a certain breed of pedantic man, right? Um,
Pedantic
but
man.
there's also like wrapped up in that, there is a demographic of women that tends to be, yeah, sort of like middle-aged, left-leaning, progressive, that comes to find their spiritual beliefs through a connection with nature. And
AKA
I,
witches, perhaps,
yeah, witches, right? Witches,
Yeah.
mediums, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And so like when we think about them politically, and I wanted readers to understand that this is sort of like a gettable block of voters for the progressive left, right? Like there is a culture there that is dominated by sort of like your spiritual earth mother folks, um, but that is in danger of drifting to the right based on sort of like the strength of conspiracy thoughts, conspiracy theories, and just sort of like general anti-institutionalism. And we still
Yeah.
deal with like the Maha movement, right?
Yes. Yeah.
How do environmentalists get caught up with Trump, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
I think
it's because of this.
well, yeah, there's definitely a yoga to fascism pipeline. Uh
Yes.
like yoga teacher to fascism. And I say that as someone that tried to find myself through yoga. Um so it's like anti-vaccine um and then like
Yeah.
believing in these really odd ways for health, like castor oil in your belly button and I don't know other odd things. And then honestly, I think what the underlying baseline that the hippie folk that go to MAGA have in common with MAGA is racism. I think that's the other thing is like
Mm.
people are attracted to not just what brings us together in love, but people also become attracted to what can bring them together in hate. That's my theory.
Yeah, I think that's really insightful. That's a really interesting thought, and I think I saw a lot of evidence of that. Like there's a lot of talk about inclusion at the same time, you're in a room full of white people, right?
Yeah, you're in a
Uh,
room full of
uh,
white people who, they're going to be threatened by any other dissenting voice. So,
mhm. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. And and also like um, you know, the folks that I talked with, they were, generally like nice people. They weren't criminals. They weren't, really angry political actors out there doing, heinous acts. They were basically like doing this thing that I thought of as more of a hobby. They saw as a sort of more serious vocation or pursuit of truth. And in many ways, they're just sort of Joe average Americans.
hmm
But the problem is that you start off thinking that you've had a spiritual experience with your recently departed loved one, and you end up thinking that there is a child trafficking sex ring in a pizza shop in Washington, D.C. that you have to go stop with a gun. It's sort of like it's a an introductory concept, right? Oh,
yeah.
I lost, and it gets you onto this track where you're forced to conclude that science is wrong, uh, either because it's stupid or because it's actively malevolent, trying to cover up the truth of the spiritual realm, and then that is a very short walk to sort of like storming the Capitol.
hmm Yeah, and then oh my gosh, it's all connecting, man. Because the other part of your book is about institutions failing and then spirituality, or I guess paranoid thinking within the realm of spirituality raising as institutions falling. That's the other half of it. And so if you're not being if you don't have any foundation to keep you like back in the mainstream reality that we've all decided is true, you don't have any trust in any of those institutions, you can just start imagining whatever you want and deciding that that is fact. um so
Hmm.
I mean, I've lost people in my life to that kind of thinking myself. um and it's very pervasive, and it makes me wonder about whether or not our primitive brains are designed to be able to consider more than one like I just don't think our brains are reliable enough to really process all the information that we're given anymore. I think we're overwhelmed.
Yeah, I mean, and absolutely, and like we believe in science, sort of like despite our human nature, not because of our human nature, right?
hmm
Like our human nature is so deeply flawed. And one of the hallmarks that I found within the paranormal enthusiast community is that um, people can hold two sort of like opposing facts and consider them to both be true at the same time. That there is not, they don't believe in an objective reality.
can
Reality is
you do
very
you have
sort of like,
any do you have any examples specifically?
uh, like there might be a UFO alien abductee support group meeting, right?
hmm
One guy gets up and he says that I was kidnapped by aliens last night, and they told me that the entire universe is peopled with blue aliens, and they are on Earth to turn humans blue. And once we're blue, then they're going to move on to the next, backwater planet, right? And
That's
then
pretty
another
cool.
guy
I
might
like
get
it.
up.
I just want to say I like that. I'm not against
You'd
it.
be for the
The
smurfification of
smurfification.
Earth.
I'd be mad about all of the work I've had done on my arms, tattoo wise, and that maybe that gets erased. But if we're all blue, it'd be so funny. What could we even get mad at? So I'm down
That's
with it.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Uh, and then, another person might come up and they were kidnapped by aliens the previous night, and they have a view of alien agendas and physiology that is completely contradictory of what the first guy said, right?
Hmm.
So that's like an example.
Yeah.
And the point within the community is not to sort of challenge those facts, but instead to honor sort of like the experience of the person. And
Hmm.
that's sort of like a noble thought, right? It's very nice. It's nice to be inclusive and to welcome someone who's got like a batshit crazy idea. Um, but the overall effect of it is sort of corrosive against the idea that there is an objective universe to be teased out with science.
Hmm.
And so science sort of like overcomes our stupid human tendencies, right? Science is our ability to have an objective fact, and uh, that's sort of like what's under threat.
Hmm. Um, I don't know, like, okay, I've been watching a lot of Nova lately. I have been on a little bit of a spiritual journey in just that, like, I've been
Mhm.
trying to just understand how gravity works and how
Yeah.
Einstein's theory of relativity. Like, I'm really trying to become more intelligent, and the only way I know how to do that is by watching PBS. Uh, so
Yes.
I subscribe to their app. Everyone needs to support PBS. They just lost their federal funding.
Hmm.
So I'm watching a ton of Nova. I'm learning all about like quarks and neutrinos, and then I'm
Wow.
learning about the Big Bang, and I'm watching these and trying to absorb them. And the interesting thing to me about science, especially with how advanced, I mean, science makes these huge advances more exponentially quickly every day. It like
Hmm.
doubles with how much more advanced it gets to where we can't even like keep up with it. But now I'm
Hmm.
hearing theories that, and I'm not expecting you to be able to comment on them. But now I'm hearing theories about the nature of consciousness and the universe as told by scientists. So it's not just like some YouTube conspiracy theorist that
Hmm.
we may be inventing our own reality at every single moment. Sort of like a simulation, but maybe none of this even is real. So what do you think about
Hmm.
that?
Yeah, I mean, when you get very deep into the science, you get to some really weird fucking places, right?
Hmm.
Uh, when you start to look at like quarks and subatomic particles, or when you start to think about Big Bang and the nature of the universe and those sort of like really big questions,
Or
you
very, very
get
small.
to yeah, and the science leads you to some very bizarre possibilities for what our universe is, right? I heard another one sort of like similar to that this whole universe might be sort of like a projection of another universe that is existing that went through a black hole. Because we know
Mm,
that particles are linked. Subatomic particles are linked one to the other. So what one quark does affects its pair. Right?
hmm.
I don't even know if it's quarks. I think it might be something smaller than a quark. And
Yeah.
so that this whole universe might be sort of like in response to what is happening to the other half of those subatomic particles.
So does
So,
that
the
mean that
point just
in
being
the
that, like,
does wait, does that mean that in
yeah,
this universe that may be parallel to ours that everything's going amazing? Is
yeah, I hope so. I hope there's some rhyme or reason to it. My goodness, wouldn't that be nice
it'd
if
be
our
nice.
suffering was enabling some pleasure somewhere in the universe.
I hope
Uh,
so. I hope
the
it serves some greater purpose. Sorry for detracting. Go back to.
Not at all. Yeah, no. So yeah, just like so the point is like yeah, like if we get really deep into the science, you can make an argument for why science is sort of like as weird and wonderful as spiritualism is.
Yeah.
But I think that sort of like the disconnect for me personally is that if you then take those sorts of ideas to discount um, science that occurs in sort of like the more recognized physical boundaries of our universe, right? Like if you start to discount um, the efficacy of vaccines because science has a weird sounding answer to the Big Bang, to what came before the Big Bang, then you're really sort of, you know, latching onto a narrative that can cause great harm, right? And
Hmm.
so I'm really curious, how do you reconcile your own, sort of like spiritual beliefs with um, the fact that perhaps some of the things that you believe in, like I don't know, I'll just guess energy, like auras, something like these are very commonplace, or ghosts, that maybe you felt the presence of a loved one. How do you reconcile that with sort of like the lack of evidence from a scientific perspective?
Well,
And I'm not, and please don't take I am genuinely curious. I am
yeah, I
not.
didn't
This is
feel
not a pejorative question.
I
Okay, good,
didn't
good, good.
feel any negative energy in your accusation.
I'm just really genuinely curious because I think like a lot of people do seem to be able to do it. They are sort of like pro-vaccine and also, have some of these beliefs. And I think that when they can be reconciled, it's a really wonderful thing.
Yeah. Well, I reluctantly believe in ghosts. Like, I
Hmm.
wish that I didn't, but it would make my life a lot like it doesn't affect my life actually if I'm thinking about it, but it would make my idea of who I am a lot more streamlined if ghosts weren't in there. I wish I could just be completely atheist and be okay with that. But I had a
Hmm.
ghost experience and I can't deny the ghost
Ooh.
experience.
Hmm.
I've told this story on my podcast before, so if you've heard it, whatever. But Matt, you need to hear this.
I
Um,
need to hear this.
yeah, yeah. So this was like 20 years ago, and it was Easter, and my friends and we lived in Portland, so we made an Easter egg hunt, but for Pabst Blue Ribbon cans of beer. Um, and we did a scavenger hunt by bicycle. So it was probably my greatest accomplishment up to that point. I was 20 years old. And I was too drunk to bike home. So my friends let me crash at their apartment. The apartment was like a big house that had been separated into four different apartment homes, and we were on the ground floor. It was a one bedroom
Mhm.
apartment. And they took the bedroom that was in the back and turned that into their office. It was a couple. And then they lived in the front room as if it was a bedroom, which I was like, oh,
Mhm.
that's really weird. Okay, whatever. You're quirky. And so I was too drunk to bike home. My friends let me crash on the floor in the office, which is the back bedroom. And in front of me was a mirror. And when I woke up in the middle of my drunken sleep,
Mhm.
and I wasn't awake nor was I asleep. I was in a different conscious state. And the
Mhm.
mirror was shaking and it had a silver aura. Um,
Ooh.
and I knew that it wasn't actually shaking, but there was something like some fuzziness that was making it appear to shake. I don't know how to describe that because I was like, part of me
Mhm.
knew that this wasn't in a material way shaking. But then the other thing is, so after the mirror shaking, I fall back asleep, which I think is bizarre that I could even do that. But I think it was like a little kid with the covers over their head, sort of like make it go away kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And then I wake up at another point in the night to a voice in my head, and the voice sounded like Tom Waits. and and he was calling out the name Angela, which was freaky for me because my full name's Andrea. So I'm really
Hmm.
glad it was Angela instead. But he's calling out Angela, and it was like sing-songy and playful, but also terrifying. Um,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, and so the next morning, my friends like we kind of chatted, just waking up, coffee, whatever. Hello, good
Well, wait,
morning.
wait, wait. No, no, you're skipping the most important part. What do you do after you hear the voice coming out of the mirror?
Oh, that's a good point. Thank you. Um, I just kind of was like, I hate this. I don't know. And like I shut down, like fight or flight
Yeah.
or fawn. And I think I hid. Emotionally, I like receded into myself and just tried to go back to sleep. Um,
Yeah.
but like it's so funny because it's 20 years ago. So another theory of science is that we don't actually have memories. We go back to retrieve what a memory is and like reinvent it each time. So it's like hard for me to remember what
Mm.
actually happened. Um,
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So the next morning we're waking up, we're having coffee, we're making small talk, and my friends were like, "How'd you sleep last night?" And I was like, "Well, those were the most fucked up dreams I've ever had in my life ever." And they were
Hmm.
like, "Yeah, that's why we sleep in the front room."
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Had they had similar experiences?
Yeah, and they needed to know if anyone else had ever had an experience like that in that space.
This is all right, not good friends. Not
They're
good
fine.
friends.
It's scientific.
No, no. Andy, I'm gonna stand up for you because you want to stand up for yourself. That is not a good friend.
They gave me
Friends,
a
if
hundred.
you're listening, you owe Andy something. I don't know what it is, but something very nice.
Another time in my life, a few years later, they gave me $100 when I needed it, so I think it's fine.
Okay, all right, all right.
Yeah,
That's a wash.
yeah. They paid me $100 to get emotionally terrorized and forever change my perceptions on the world. But I want to add one little postscript, which makes it extra cheeky, is that
Yeah.
the house was on 12th and Southeast Stark in Portland, Oregon, which is
Okay.
like their backyard fed into the Pioneer Cemetery.
Oh, fun.
Hmm.
Yikes.
So I think Angela was buried beneath us, and he was trying to find her.
Well, why did your friends keep the mirror?
I don't think that they knew that the mirror shaking would be a part of it. I don't know.
Oh, I see. I see.
I literally am going to reach out to them soon just to see if they remember things the same way that I did because I haven't talked to these friends in like 20 years. So I'd love to catch up
Yeah.
and be like, "Hey, remember that house you let me stay in?" I really am going to reach out to them soon. Um,
That's super cool.
yeah, so I can't deny that that happened to me. Like it
Hmm.
happened and I don't think that there's any way to disprove it because it's like I mean, I just fundamentally know that that happened. And I know that I'm an
Hmm.
unreliable witness because it was 20 years ago and because I was intoxicated, but it fucking happened. I don't know what else to tell you. And
Yeah, I've
so,
talked to so many people who have told me experiences that are super powerful and meaningful to them. This was sort of like a weird random things, but other times they like really fit into the context of something else going on in their lives. Um, and um, they will have sort of like, independent verification through conversations with others like you did, or, like they're given a piece of knowledge that then turns out to be true, so something like that. And I am not out to debunk those experiences. Yeah, like I think this is part of the human experience is to have those sorts of experiences.
mhm.
Yeah, I told a little anecdote early in my book. I don't know if we said the title. It's The Ghost Lab, if
Oh
anyone
yeah,
knows.
buy
Yeah,
this
yeah, that's it.
book.
Buy this book, The Ghost Lab. In my book, The Ghost Lab,
Written by
um,
Matthew Hongoltz-Hetling, Pulitzer Prize nominated author.
that's right, that's right. So yeah, you could spend your money very wisely if you bought this book. Um, no, yeah, I talk about how when I was a kid, I had like a very powerful
Hmm.
experience where there's an entity at the foot of my childhood bed, and I was scared, and I wanted to turn to look at it because I wanted to be able to sort of like see it coming at me. Like I was too scared to not look. And as I turned, something big and heavy struck me in the head.
Yeah.
Came just flying out of the darkness. And I knew that this entity had like poltergeisted me, right? It had chucked something in my head as a message to not move. And so I just laid there, in my 10-year-old self or whatever, and sort of whimpered quietly in terror. And then after some amount of time passed, like you, I fell back asleep. And then for me, there was sort of like an obvious mundane explanation for it, and that I found that when I turned my head, I had pulled a bedside lamp off of a headboard that was up above me, and this heavy marble based lamp had struck me in the head, and that it was just sort of like my own action that made me feel that. But uh, if I had not found that that was the case, then I would be absolutely convinced. And and actually, when I was a kid, I had a lot of other experiences that seemed to me to be proof of the supernatural. Um, and so I get it. I understand that these experiences happen. And what I try to pose in the book is, okay, so like there's this irreconcilable difference between institutions as they are, evidence-based institutions, and these experiences. And so how can we sort of like get past that, where the answer for the spiritual community isn't to storm the Capitol, isn't to, defund science funding in the United States, but that there can instead be sort of like a harmony between evidence and spiritual experiences, right? Those sort of like two camps. How can we reconcile them in a way that these institutions can remain relevant and helpful to the American public that currently has such a deep-seated mistrust and in times even hatred of them?
Yeah. I do have some ideas, but first I want to know, because I think that has to do with power, and the knowledge of like what existence means is a type of power. And I think it also has to do with the fact that we're in a Christian society where, as far as the UFO question goes, the idea of aliens being real to a certain extent negates the existence of God. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think that prevents the government from wanting to release more information about UFOs because it takes away their ability to control us. Which
Interesting.
is that conspiratorial?
To me, it is, but that's not to say it's wrong. Uh, you know, there's this book, Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam, and it was about sort of like our tendency to sort of like isolate and put ourselves into bubbles. And
Mhm.
it was about loneliness, American loneliness. And sort of like a subset of that interest of his was um, an interest in trust, and public trust and public distrust, which is, of course, what I talk about in the Ghost Lab. And he said, one reason that public distrust has grown is because maybe we can't discount that it might just be that the government is not acting in a trustworthy way, right?
Yeah.
And so, um,
One
to
reason
the extent
public
that the
trust is eroding is because the government fucking sucks. Like,
right,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's so funny. Yes. And so like clearly part of the problem is that government needs to get its act together, and institutions need to get their act together in a more fundamental way. Um, but again, it's sort of like a gateway into a more dangerous position, which is that all
Hmm.
government is bad,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
science is bad, that the fruits of science are to be regarded with derision and suspicion and
Hmm.
rejection, and that in fact scientific research ought to be halted, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of people with cancer who are quite dependent on that research going well, right?
Hmm.
And there are a zillion other areas in which that scientific research is really really important for everybody, right?
Hmm.
And so to throw the baby out with the bathwater, that is the challenge that I think the conspiracy theorist has to embrace.
Well, I think that one of the problems with the throwing the baby out with the bathwater is the fact that, like, we live in a society that's driven by this algorithm, which is showing us
Mhm.
content based on clashing. You know, like it has to be like
Yes.
turned up to 100 where like you're either getting rage baited or you're getting like really
Hmm.
like the algorithm doesn't operate based on nuance. And this kind
You're
of
right.
thinking requires a ton of nuance. And the more that we're in this society that's giving us validation based on this algorithm, the harder it is for us to think ourselves out of it. So we're in a mental quicksand.
Yeah, absolutely. We get locked into these digital bubbles, and I have conservative friends, and I try to maintain those friendships and talk to them. And sometimes it's really hard because when I go online, I see sort of like the worst caricatures of conservatives, right? I see the absolute worst bottom of the barrel people being the stupidest, meanest people in the universe because that is what generates clicks and views and causes that's what the algorithm will shove at me, right?
Hmm.
And then I watch it and I feel really good about myself because I'm not these stupid hicks,
Hmm.
and they are watching the same content about us. They're watching, sort of like a stereotypical snowflake college kid have a
Like a
meltdown
purple-haired
because
tattooed woman.
his right. But
Yeah.
but they'll find you when you are crying because your milk is too warm, right?
Mm.
And
Oh God.
or too cold, right?
Hmm.
And you're caring over something, right? And then that becomes sort of like the face of liberalism. That
Yeah.
becomes the face of progressivism to them. And so like sort of like the majority of conservatives, I do not believe are um, well represented in my social media content
Hmm.
and the digital bubble and the information that I consume. Even though I can look at their leadership and say like there is a fundamental difference between the left and the right, in that the right has just like really given into to some crazy impulses in electing their leadership, um, whereas the left has not. Um, but we're not the average liberal and progressive is not well represented in social media feeds about cat litter in schools because people might identify as cats and those sorts of things. Those
Yeah.
narratives are very very powerful to the people on the right, and you have to sort of like find a way to get past that.
Yeah, like the Somali daycare thing that was happening in Minneapolis. Um,
Yeah.
I just found out that, well, okay, if people weren't paying attention, and I barely was, but because it just felt like Pizzagate all over again. Um,
Hmm.
concerned citizen reporters were going to Somali daycares asking to be let in so they could see whether or not there's fraud. And then they're like, oh, why won't the Somali lady let this random white man in my daycare? Like, this must be fraud. And then I just found out that there was like a $250 million scheme that got busted, like, I guess a couple years ago. It had something to do with a
Yeah.
football player. I don't know. But I'm like, oh, well, here's where the real fraud is. It was white people, and you're not following that because it's not being fueled by an algorithm that enjoys shoving racism down our throats to divide us more. Um,
Right.
so much like you asked Andie, the protagonist in your book, my favorite part of your book was when you asked him if there's anything too crazy for him to not believe. Like I loved that part so much. And I think he said that he believes in mermaids.
He was like sort of like grasping for an answer, and I said like, yeah, something real. Is there something really outlandish like mermaids? And he's like, he's sort of like hedging and hemming and hawing about. He's like, there's actually maybe more evidence for Atlantis and
Yeah,
mermaids
yeah.
than you would believe.
So I'd like to know
And
what's the most fringe thing that you believe? Like how far do your own beliefs go?
oh, I mean, I have sort of like really calcified into um like I'm open to a lot, but I believe in very little. And um yeah, I suppose for me it is those sort of like, bigger scientific, wacky science-based theories like I mentioned about the fact that we might be a projection of a black hole. But like Yeah, I get very literal. I get very, very literal because um, I don't trust myself, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, and I don't trust my own experiences. And I know that when I look into something, I will self-select information and build a narrative that is very resonant for me, and I'm afraid of my capacity to do that. And so I look to um, information sources that are governed by sort of like rigorous fact checking and objectivity. And
Hmm.
I really try to limit my core beliefs to those things. Um, that's not to say I don't have sort of like philosophical beliefs. I came to vegetarianism through sort of like as an ethical and moral
Mazel tov.
question
I didn't know you
about
were a
yeah,
veggie.
like when I was in my 20s, it started to get to me the fact that I couldn't reconcile my love for animals with my taste for animals,
Hmm.
and
With your taste
and
for
I have
blood.
with my taste for blood, right, and I have engaged in some backsliding, honestly, just like very recently, I've become a dad, and the stress of parenting. I have like a
Hmm.
natural desire, like I would eat meat 3 times a day if it were not an ethical consideration, right? And
Hmm.
so
Are
I
your
get so
kids
stressed out.
vegetarian?
Yeah, we're raising. I say vegetarian. Technically, we do pescatarian,
Same,
but
yeah.
I'm allergic to non-shellfish. So
Mm.
for me, that has meant like scallops and clams, that sort of thing I'll eat. But my kids will eat a fish stick, but that's about the extent of their meat
Yeah.
consumption.
You
My
got to
wife
get
is
those
full on,
omega-3 fatty
vegan.
acids.
You got to get them somehow.
Yeah.
Can only eat so many avocados.
Yeah.
Uh, a- and so, yeah, my wife is like full on like vegan with very strict dietary requirements. And so, yeah, but yeah, I came to vegetarianism through sort of like a belief in like the greatest pleasure principle, which is philosophical. And I've also been like very into like Taoism at various points in my life. And like I suppose I don't believe in it in a literal spiritual sense, but I do believe that there's sort of like a method of harmonious interaction with the world that goes with the flow and that um, makes for a much easier, happier life.
Hmm.
Right. And so that's sort of like on the cusp of spirituality, but I don't believe in a little green man. No, actually, no, here's what I do believe. I do believe that there are aliens.
I was
I
gonna
just
say
don't
you
believe that they're
must
here.
believe there's aliens. Like there's,
Of
in
course,
my
yeah,
opinion,
yeah.
there's empirical proof that there's aliens.
Yeah, well, I don't think that there. It just seems like it would be so weird that in this vast universe that there would not be like a zillion other places where intelligent life has evolved, and that the clock is so variable that some of them must have evolved a million years ago, right? They must be a million years ahead of us,
Hmm.
technology wise. And so I bend myself in a knot like they should be here, right?
Yeah, they're at the bottom of the ocean. Wake up, sheeple.
Right. And so like I just haven't seen any evidence of aliens on Earth that I feel like I can trust. Um, and
If you saw,
um,
if you had a classic flying saucer experience, like a low impact one, where there were just like three lights in the sky moving around erratically, if you saw that, would that be enough proof for you?
no, not at all. No, no. I need a power greater than myself that has my faith and objectivity to sort of like sign off on it.
Okay.
Um, even like I would believe hoax. I would believe unidentified drone type stuff. Like
Mm.
the experience would have to be so personally immersive and powerful and sustained over time, I think, to really convince me that this is the thing. I need ET in my closet, right? Uh, hiding among the animals. Like my bar for personal experience is so high that it will never be met. Um, but I think I need like a scientific based group to sort of like sign off on it. And anytime I go to look for it, by the way, the evidence just seems to sort of like evaporate.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that sound really good, and then when you get down to sort of like brass tacks, um, what you find is sort of like a narrative wrapped around uh some ambiguous evidence
Okay. I kind of lost
for
you on that
me.
last
For me.
part.
Yeah. No, I know, and you may have like seen that evidence in ways that are work for you, and hats off, and I understand that there's a lot to be said on the topic that I am not particularly well versed in.
Yeah.
Who I got a call for or got an email from not that long ago as a result of writing this book was oh God, I forget his name, but he's like a military guy who became sort of like most famous because he was one of the central interviews for that book slash movie, The Men Who Stare at Goats.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that guy reached out to me by email. And I was like, yo, like, man, and he's like, in his 80s and he's very sharp and um, yo, he's like, whole hog believer, and he has access to information that I don't have access to.
So
So
he was in the CIA. I didn't see the movie. I know John Ronson's work really well, but I haven't read that book either.
I think he's in the army. I think it was like an army operative. So some of their like programs to do uh to do
To learn
paranormal things.
telepathy or something.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the book or I mean the podcast Telepathy Tapes?
Yes. I
I
was in
want to know
conversation.
everything you have to say about that one because I listened to the telepathy tapes and
Yeah.
I'm not fully in it. Okay, so don't worry, I'm not that kooky. But like um there's something
Andy, you're allowed to be that kooky. It's okay.
okay. Well, I don't want to be that kooky, therefore I'm not that kooky.
Okay.
But okay, so I this is so weird. I listened to it while I was driving to the beach, and
Yeah.
it was also the day of a No Kings protest in Portland,
Hmm.
and it was also my birthday. So I had a very
Oh,
full
happy birthday.
thank you. We all have them. So those were all of the factors that were happening is that I just participated in a gigantic movement full of a lot of passion and high emotions. And then I started playing around with thought experiments, listening to this bizarre podcast on my way to the beach for my birthday. And then I get to the beach and I yell my deepest feelings at the ocean about how I'm feeling about consciousness in general. And then that
Hmm.
video went mega viral. It went so viral to the point where like this is why I have a podcast right now. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and so like I don't know, sometimes it's really gratifying to tap your finger into that like puddle of just weird feelings and then you come out with something amazing like a viral video. So, but then
That's
the other
great.
yeah, then the other side of the telepathy tapes is like okay, first of all, this woman's selling way too many energy supplements. She's selling like a lot of Joe Rogan coded stuff. And then I just
Yeah.
wonder, like, there's this population of children who cannot speak for themselves, so they can't really advocate for anything in any way that's not uh,
Yeah.
tainted by another person's perspective manipulating it. And then if you're a mom with a non-speaking child, this kind of idea that the children have telepathy could really help solve this major burden in your life. So that's
Right. What an
that's
appealing idea it is for that mom or that dad who's got a kid who can't talk, right?
hmm
They can communicate, right? Like, oh my God, if my kid couldn't communicate in the traditional way, I would be so bummed, right?
yeah.
It would be like the central problem of my life is how can I give this kid a form of expression? And then when you have someone who comes along who's essentially selling that idea, um, you know, clearly there is a lot of motive for both adults in that equation to participate with belief, right?
hmm
That the parent wants to believe and the person who's sort of like selling products wants to believe because They both benefit from it. They both get something very, very important out of it. One person money, another person sort of like an improved parenting experience.
Hmm.
Um, so I've not looked at the evidence for that firsthand. I haven't like really sat down and parsed it, but I did read I think it was a New York Times article that sort of asserted, and New York Times, by the way, is a source that I trust, because I've been through their fact checking process, and it is the most bananas fact checking process, the most rigorous fact checking process that I will ever. They did everything but give me a full rectal exam. They assert, and I believe them, the that there's sort of like a study. There's some academic research that the believers point to, and that academic research that they point to is um, untenable. That it's not real. That it's basically like it's the whole study is tainted and can't be taken with any level of seriousness whatsoever. Just like sort of like Andrew Wakefield's seminal autism vaccine study, right? At
Mm.
first, and then everyone's pointing to that study, and then it turns out that it was like some kids at his kid's birthday party or something, and
Or the big pharma, the big pharma OxyContin thing about it being non-addictive. Um,
right, yeah, which is
yeah.
a great example, great counterexample of a vested interest, a profit motive, driving science, right,
Do you know
and
about the
corrupting our
article?
political processes.
Do you know about the article that they cited that created the whole talking point about it being non-addictive?
I don't think so. No, tell me.
Oh, they always pointed to like the New England Journal of Medicine. They're like, the New England Journal of Medicine said that it is non-addictive. And that was just a letter that a doctor wrote in that got published in the New England Journal of Medicine. And
Ah.
and this letter also was talking about people who were about to die from cancer. So it's really hard to get addicted to oxy when you're actively dying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What a warping of the truth.
Yeah.
And and that is sort of like the problem is that like the systems that we have in place there, they can be subverted and corrupted by a powerful lobbying interest group like the pharmaceutical industry.
The guy that ran the FDA went on to work for Purdue Pharma. They
Yeah, and
poached
that
him.
happens all the time.
Yeah.
It's such a problem. It's such a problem. Um, but sort of like where I differ sometimes from some of the folks who point that out is that we have a system with sort of like imperfect transparency and imperfect accountability, right? Like that's what we have. We have a flawed system, and so I just don't want the answer to that to be, well, then we're just going to go trust in a marketplace-based solution with
Hmm.
zero transparency and zero accountability, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like like you don't then just sort of conclude like, okay, well then everything the FDA says is bullshit, right? You 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 sort of look at those systems and how the laws were allowing or not allowing that warping to take place, and you try to fix that, right?
You
You
know
try
what's
for
so funny?
reform.
You know what's so
Yeah.
funny is that your belief in that system actually taking steps to correct itself is just as fringe to me.
Right. Can democracy work? That is the question, Andy. What do you think?
I wish it could. I want it to. I think we're in too deep. I think that we've created weapons of control that we can't possibly control ourselves.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think that AI has eroded any sort of sense of reality that a lot of people needed to make healthy
Yeah.
decisions. And I
Yeah.
think that we still have primate brain when we're living in a world that needs to be run by thoughtful humans. And I just don't have any hope for any sort of truth objectively to ever arise ever again. So I'm just gonna go walk around in the woods with my dog.
Hey, you would cast a vote for Bernie Sanders. We talked about that
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah, I believe
Uh,
in democracy and that I'm going to fight for it, but I just don't have
Bernie
any
has the
hope.
path. Bernie
What?
has the path.
Yeah, Bernie,
Bernie has the
AOC.
answer.
Um,
AOC,
I, I think,
Mondani.
yeah, I think the midterms are going to be incredible, honestly. As long
I,
as we don't,
I hope so.
God, we're just like every day I'm counting down one day closer to it. But like 40 different Republican congressmen have said that they're not even running for re-election. Um, Stuff that I've read, okay, I I'm glad to talk to you because it's like I never talk to anybody about these things. So when I say them out loud
Mhm.
is like another way for me to actually hear myself. But the trigger warning, massive trigger warning. Some of the Epstein file stuff that's been dropping lately, from people that have testified, they're going on threads right now and talking about what they testified against,
Mhm.
or testified about. And apparently, there's child stuff happening in those in tapes that people have seen and participated in. They were trafficked as children, and murder actually happened too, like snuff films.
Mm.
So
Wow.
that's how dark it's getting, and that's why Trump's fighting so hard to make us forget about the Epstein files by ramping up all of the violence that he can do in any other capacity. So that's bone chilling, and that's what I believe. I'm like, I will still vote Democrat.
Hmm.
I'll always vote Democrat, but
Hmm.
we are up against a lot, and if we don't figure this out soon, it doesn't matter because the planet will destroy us. Here's here's what I truly believe. I believe that the planet is this giant, throbbing, living being, and
Hmm.
um it's tired of us, and we're a virus, and it has a fever, and it's getting rid of us. And so
Oh my
I
gosh.
support that.
Hey, it's a lovely image you paint of this sort of post-human world.
Oh, I can't wait.
Oh my God.
um
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I think it might be better. Talking about like solutions. The reconciling that I was talking about. Like, I sort of posit in the book that like I think institutions need to give the time of day to beliefs that are not necessarily proven, right? Like they need to bend. They need to have relationships with folks who have those sorts of belief because otherwise you're just sort of kicking everybody out of the tent and the
Mm,
tent falls on you because there's no nothing left inside it, right?
yeah.
And I think this is so like one of the examples I talk about is I think there ought to be like sort of like a licensing and certification system for mediums and ghost hunters.
I loved
Uh,
that part. Oh my God, I loved that part.
yeah, it seems like a no-brainer to me. Like, why do you have a whole class of professionals? I think there's something like 80,000 working mediums in this country, professional mediums, and the public has no way to tell which ones are sort of like acting in good faith and helping people get to a place of centeredness,
Hmm.
and which ones are there to tell you that you're cursed and you need to cough up some money to get rid of the curse, right?
Yeah, like
Um,
one time, Matt, one time
yeah.
A Reiki healer told me that I have serpents in my sacral area chakra. And I don't know
Oh
how
my
to.
gosh, how much does that cost?
She wasn't charging me. She's a friend. But
Oh,
um
that's nice.
but I'm like, what? I'm just walking around here with snakes in my chakras and I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah. Oh, I hope that those snakes have a short shelf life.
I don't
Yeah,
know how to get rid of my serpents.
I boarded my dog once to go out of town for a week, and when I came back, they told me that he had shattered a crystal with his negative energy, and they tried to sell me some water that was I guess it was
Oh,
like homeopathic dog medicine, and I was like, and I was really trying to understand what they were saying because this was in a veterinarian's office. It was like an adjunct to a vet's office, and I said like, okay,
wow.
um, so what is this water? And they're like, well, if you tested it, it would just be water. But it's working off of vibrations, and if you just put a drop of this water into the dog's water dish every day, it will it'll give the entire dish of water the same powerful effect that each drop has. And so I said, well, can I just buy one drop? Because I got a pond next door, and I think I can solve the whole neighborhood's negative energy here. And they would not, and so I would not buy it.
Did you go back to that vet ever again?
No, no, and
Good.
it really
Thank
shook
God.
me. It really shook me because
Yeah.
like they were where I would go for like any, my dog has worms or something, like whatever the dog has, I'm going to my vet. And I just sort of had an underlying assumption that it was an evidence-based practice.
Yeah.
But this sort of like came out, and it really actually got me um upset because
Mm-hmm.
my dog is food aggressive.
Mm.
Okay, so I knew that he had some emotional issues that he was going to be a boarding challenge, which I told them up front.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of like explained the trigger and how to avoid the trigger. And when I came back, he had bitten somebody, which was
Mm.
sort of like what led them to try to treat him with crystals that he apparently shattered with his little angry dog heart.
What kind of
Um,
dog is he?
he was a part whippet, part short hair pointer, and so he was the fastest
Wiry
little
little
dog you
guy.
ever saw. Yeah,
Yeah.
wiry little guy. He was so fast. Um, and I only took him because he was unadoptable, because he was a biter.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I can navigate this, and
I
I don't
can
want him
fix
dead.
him.
Yeah, my two options are like to let him die or to own him.
Mm-hmm.
So I owned him, and I didn't have kids, so we were able to get through it. But like but so they and my wife and I were newlywed at the time, and so we had to like just sort of like the most happy little nest. And they
Mm-hmm.
said like, your dog's energy shattered the crystal. Is everything okay at home? Or are you guys having a lot of conflict and tension? And it was such like an insulting question to me because I was in that like newlywed glow
Yeah.
phase, right? Of like, we both, it was just sort of like a contest between my wife and I to see which one of us could put the other on a higher pedestal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so to have somebody just sort of like, say, we sort of know from the shattered crystal what's really going on in your life.
Oh my God. That's an like we're running out of time here. I respect
Oh
your
yeah, yeah,
time
yeah,
that you got
yeah,
to spend with your wife and family and whatever, but
yeah, 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 yeah. Whatever.
whatever. I just want to like the last thing I want to talk about, I guess, is like it's just so interesting to me that like you find it in the field of veterinarianism and in dentistry that there's some really kooky QAnon crystal stuff happening over there. And it's fascinating
Mhm.
that these are people that work in a realm of science, and yet they're also into this
Mhm.
wild, unprovable stuff. I think that's really what it's like to be an American. I think it's the most Amer I I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. I just wanted to bring up that that's a trope. It's a real thing. Um,
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, and like, and yeah, it's sort of like it's a sort of like a rot that goes to the core. But here's the thing: I don't really have a problem with it if it doesn't have any negative effects. The
mhm.
same thing that led me to vegetarianism, the summum bonum principle of John Stuart Mill and utilitarianism. If it's not causing any pain, then it's not a sin, right? If it's enhancing pleasure and decreasing pain, then what's the problem, right? And so I think we need to have systems that allow these beliefs to be explored and nurtured in ways that are positive. And the system is right now freezing them out. And so they're curdling into these sort of like destructive tendencies. The state of Nevada has a board of homeopathy, right? And they don't believe in homeopathy, but
Wait,
they have
you're going real fast. They have
oh, sorry, sorry.
a board of homeopathy.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So there is a state certified board of homeopaths,
Okay.
and they judge whether or not the homeopaths in the state of Nevada need to or can be certified.
Hmm.
And so, sort of like the net effect of that is that one, you have the state sort of giving a thumbs up to a practice that is probably not real, that's not really supported by evidence. Um, But the upside, why do they do it? They do it because now the homeopaths in the state of Nevada are agreeing to, not enter into sexual relationships with their patients who they have power over. They're agreeing not to sort of steer a cancer patient away from a doctor,
Mm,
right? They're agreeing to not put anything poisonous in their tinctures, and they're agreeing not to charge gouge. They're not going to price gouge
hmm.
a desperate patient, and so the homeopaths in that state are acting in accordance with the public good. Maybe somebody goes and wastes a few dollars on an ineffective remedy. I have no problem with that. Um, but they also like those homeopaths become stakeholders in the institution,
Yeah.
right? Because they're certified. And so now they're against the outlaw homeopaths who are out there doing the bad stuff. And that's what I think we need to do for everything, for everyone
Yeah.
who's in these fields, all these quack healers, all of the
It
the
gives a
ghost
layer of
hunters and
a
the mediums.
it gives a layer of accountability
Mhm.
that we would desperately need as a society in a with systems that are increasingly not functioning. So like
Yeah.
as we keep eroding more and more, I'm gonna start listening to more and more episodes of the telepathy tapes. So yeah, we
Go
do.
for it. Go for it. I respect your right to listen to that swill. Um,
It's very entertaining at the very least. So anyway, Matt, thank you so much for spending some time with me. I'm so glad we got to catch up. Um, you don't really do a lot of social media, right? Or am I just missing out on
I
that?
don't. I'm on Twitter, but I basically don't do anything on social media now. I
Okay.
just don't have the time to keep up with it. If I did, it would probably help my career, but I just don't have the time to be
Well,
posting.
on the plus side, if you had a skyrocketing career, we wouldn't be hanging out right now.
That's true. That's true. Right, right, right. Keep me grounded. Keep me grounded.
That's me. That's me. Uh, well, where can people find you? What's the best way to support you?
Oh, thank you so much for asking. My website is still live. It's matthongoltz-Hetling.com, which is so hard to say. But go to my email, matt.honghet@gmail.com, or to my Twitter platform at HH underscore Matt. And yeah, I'd love to hear from folks, and I'd
Yeah.
love to talk to people about their beliefs uh, and sort of like ways that these beliefs can be expressed positively and respectfully. Um,
Yeah. Maybe it'd be fun for you to listen to a couple episodes of the telepathy tapes and then circle back with me. And we
yeah,
can,
a major media outlet that I don't want to name, they sort of like invited me to submit a pitch on about that specific topic, and so I understand season 2 came out recently. Have you
yeah.
listened to season 2?
Yeah, season one is like its own thing, and then season two is where it gets really spicy, Matt. The the last episode, the latest one that came out,
Hmm.
purports that the Chinese government is anytime anytime I say something about an entire government, I'm like, oh my God, I sound crazy right now. And I don't know what to make of it. I just know that I'm hearing information that the Chinese government is teaching children to think with their eyes closed and their minds can then astrally explore and read your
Whoa,
thoughts. And there's psychic training centers in China and our American.
Chinese Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. So, I want to say it'd be really fun if you listened to a couple of these episodes and maybe we listened to them at the same time and then came back and discussed them a little more. So,
Oh, I would love that. I would
cool.
absolutely love to, Andy.
Yeah, that'd be really
I
fun.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, and I'd love to come back in any capacity. Um, and
Do you
listen, I know
have,
you got to go. Yeah,
well,
go
you
ahead.
got to go. I'm more worried about your time because you have people that rely on you. I just have a dog.
Well, let me share a little anecdote from my life. This is apropos of absolutely nothing, but my I've got a 4-year-old son now,
Hmm.
His name is Heron, like the bird.
Oh,
And he has a 1 year old sister named Egret, like the other bird.
oh,
And
cute.
yeah, they're our little birds. We love it.
Oh my
Um,
God.
and he's always wanted I don't know, he's basically he's really gotten into animals just in the last couple of months. He was
Mhm.
always very ambivalent about almost all animals, which was like heartbreak for me. But then he sort of like he saw like a snake at a science museum, and then he started engaging with like terrarium influencers on YouTube who are sort of like, yeah, like I flipped over 100 rocks in the rainforest, and this is what I found.
Okay.
Um, and
I
so he
didn't know
developed
we
this
could
like,
be, I didn't know that influencers could be that aggressive about the
oh,
rainforest, but okay.
oh yes, and mom and I are carefully like trying to like screen out the bad, but it's that algorithm we talked about.
Yeah.
So we're like, yeah, fighting with the algorithm over what my 4 year old son can watch, in a way that indulges his interests in an independent way. But so he came to love the idea of having like a pet in a terrarium, and
Hmm.
um, my wife is very allergic. We don't have any animals in the house. So sort of like what he wound up doing was he made a little terrarium out of a glass tchotchke that it's about the size and shape of a Swarovski egg, but it's hollow inside with a little door. And he turned it into a terrarium with soil and all that inside. And then he found a stink bug and he put the stink bug in there. And so he has a pet stink bug and he's had it for about a month now. And he played with it for like 45 minutes this morning.
That's
And
super cute.
he just loves his stink bug. And um, he had breakfast with it this morning. He brought out a little like cap full of banana, a little like the thumbnail sized dish, and he put a piece of banana in it. And so he and the stink bug were eating it. So like he was playing with it on the kitchen floor about a week ago. And stink bug, by the way, regularly escapes. He
Hmm.
flies away because my son can't leave him in his cage, so he'll be on my son's hand, and then he'll fly off into the air, and then he'll turn up a few days later. He found him yesterday in like a candle.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so he,
Dumb question. Do
yeah,
stink bugs smell?
um, they smell when crushed, hence the
Oh,
name. Yeah, yes.
okay, okay.
But we're not crushing. We're not crushing. It's just sort of like a cute little slow-moving beetle. It's a great pet,
Hmm.
and this is sort of like a way for me to gauge what he is capable of caring for, and
Mm,
how he. And his problem isn't that he's like destructive. His problem is that he loves too hard. Um,
same.
and so and so the other day, or no, about a week ago, his he was playing with stink bug on the kitchen floor, and I was like cooking dinner for the family, and all of a sudden I hear him say like, "Egret, no!" And I look over, and Egret has taken stink bug away from Heron and is walking away with him. She's curious. She's a toddler. She's nonverbal. She can only communicate telepathically, and she, and so I like rush over there because I've seen what little clumsy toddler hands do with small delicate things,
Yeah.
and I take stink bug from her, and she has pulled off one of stink bug's legs,
Mm.
and um I gave him back to Heron and sort of like surreptitiously picked up the leg off the floor and put it in the garbage. And Heron didn't notice that his stink bug was now missing a leg. But stink bug flew away because it was desperate to escape, I think, my loving children, and wound up on a ledge that he couldn't reach. And then he found a new stink bug that he thinks is the old stink bug.
Oh,
And so now that's the one that he had breakfast with this morning. And so I guess I don't know what my point is, other than that I've
vote
come to really
Democrat.
vote Democrat. Yeah, like I've come to really empathize with these bugs, and I'm sort of like, it's almost like a cruelty to the bugs that my children are visiting upon them, but
Yeah.
they're doing it from such a place of love, and they're learning so much about how to care for other animals that I'm sort of like letting it go because I will squash a bug, right? I will squash a bug in my house depending on the bug and the situation. And I squash wasp nests that are around my house because I fear the threat of them. So I'm not like totally like anti-killing something that gets down to a certain scale of consciousness. I think bugs are sort of more like robots. But now I'm feeling a lot of empathy for these bugs, and it's really weighing on me.
Yeah, well, here's what I think about bugs, and this is really the last point we'll make.
Okay, yeah. Sorry,
Okay. No, I
I
love it.
hijacked because this is just on my mind. I wanted to talk
Yeah.
to you about it. I know you're an ethical person. I like to hear your
Yeah,
thoughts.
and I love nature quite a bit. I think that animals, and in particular bugs, um, and any insect species or any sort of lizard brain species, I think that they all run on a operating system where it's not about the individual, but rather the collective. And
Mm,
I think they don't fear death.
that's good. That's good. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, especially like a social insect, right? Like
Yeah.
really
But
those
when
ants and the colony is the organism, not the individual ant, right?
exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I think you're okay.
Oh, good. Oh,
Yeah.
good. Well, my son's learning a lot, so like that's where I'm leaning now, but
Well,
not without misgivings.
there's a really cool movie called Microcosms. Have you heard of that movie?
No, what's that?
It's about bugs and it's just like inside their lives and I learned so much about it. It has a lot of it does your son like gross stuff?
Yes.
Okay, because there's a lot of shedding of bug skin, and that is like at really, it's so disgusting. Like
Ooh.
when a bug is like shedding, it's so gross. He'll love it. Microcosms is the documentary. I think he'd love it.
I'll check it out. I will
Yeah.
definitely, I'll screen it for inappropriateness, but that sounds really good.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, let's check in soon. I'll email you in a little while and see if you want to actually follow through on doing some telepathy tapes reactions. I think that'd be incredible. And thank you so much for your time today, and thanks for being receptive to just some random weird artist just bothering you about the big questions.
Oh, you can never bother me, Andy. Andy, no, I've enjoyed our time together so much. I'm so appreciative of the voice that you bring to your audience. I think it's important. Um, I just love talking with you. I'm so happy that you are 4 years sober. Congratulations on that. Congratulations on this podcast. And yeah, the sticking point for me will be to find listening time for the telepathy point tapes, but I will get to it, and when I do, I will would love to talk to you about it.
Yeah, that'd be so fun. Okay, well, cheers and have a delicious vegan meal tonight, and we'll check in with each other soon. Thank you so much, Matt. Oh,
Thanks, Andy.
I gotta end the podcast on the tagline. I'm really trying to make this organic. It hasn't worked yet. We'll try it this time. Um, hey Matt, you know what we just did?
What do we
Just
do?
we just went feral. Boom!
Whoa!
All
Oh,
right.
that's
I'll
the
talk.
name of the
It
podcast.
is.
Oh my God!
It's all connected, man.
Mind equals blown. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks, dude. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
All right. Bye bye.
All right, well, that was another episode of Let's Go Feral. It was so good. If you would like to support us, look me up on Instagram. It's at Andie Main, and then you'll find my Linktree bio, which has links to my Patreon and my Venmo, or my other comedy albums, any other media that you could possibly hope for in regards to me is right there at your fingertips. I do have a patron now. So that's very exciting. They're giving me £1 of British currency a month, and I offered to mail them a Taco Bell packet that I stole from my roommate, and they said no, thank you. But that's what you can win if you or earn if you're one of my first supporters is condiments that I stole from my roommate. I'll also make you really cool art as the tiers go up. But that's the best way to support me is Venmo me directly at Andie-Main or support me on Patreon. Share this with your friends. I'm having so much fun with these big questions and episodes, and I hope you are too. Thank you so much for supporting. Have a lovely day, friends. Goodbye.